Hello, my name is Emily Cullen and I'm the Mescal UL50 Poet in Residence at the University of Limerick's Creative Writing programme. Together with students from the MA in Creative Writing, we're delighted to bring you a series of Espresso Shots of Thought, commencing in International Poetry Month, the month of April. What inspired me to devise these short segments was a quote by the British Indian poet Daljit Nagra, who stated that poetry is an espresso shot of thought. So we invite you now to relax and enjoy an insightful jolt of poetry from the University of Limerick.
Hi, I'm Sarah Lee Ryan, and I'd like to talk to you about what I think is the quintessential espresso shot of thought in poetic form, the sonnet. Sonnets are a very well-known and almost instantly recognizable form of poetry. The word sonnet is derived from the Italian word sonetto, which means little song. I think that is a lovely definition in itself, as it conveys the fact that the form is both musical and memorable. We often associate sonnets with expressions of romantic love, but really a sonnet can be about anything at all. Traditional sonnets generally consist of 14 lines of iambic pentameter, which is 10 beats with every second beat stressed. They typically follow a rhyming scheme and start with a brief argument or jolt of debate that is easily comprehended. Sonnets generally have a volta or a turn as well. The volta is where the sonnet suddenly seems to switch direction, perhaps with a different perspective or contradictory emotion. Sonnets, as we know them, can be traced back to 13th century Italy. Some think that the form evolved from Sicilian folk songs, others from the influence of Arabic poetry. However, it was the 14th century Italian poet Petrarch who was most closely associated with the early form of this sonnet. Petrarchan sonnets are composed of an octave, which is 8 lines, followed by a sestet, which is 6 lines. The verses of a Petrarchan sonnet often frame the topic of the poem as a question. I'd like to invite you to read a poem from 1850, Elizabeth Barrett Browning's sonnet number 43, which begins, "How do I love thee? Let me count the ways." The person who readily springs to mind when talking about sonnets is, of course, William Shakespeare. We have 154 of Shakespeare's sonnets in total, although he may have written more. The first 126 are addressed to a young fair man, and the later ones to a mysterious dark lady. A Shakespearean sonnet consists of 3 4-line stanzas, or 3 quatrains, and a final rhyming couplet. The lines are almost always in iambic pentameter. Shakespeare manages to convey a lot of emotion in this highly structured form, and I invite you to read Sonnet 18, which is probably his most recognizable, and begins, "Shall I compare thee to a summer's day?" More recently, contemporary poets continue to be drawn to the sonnet. A nonce sonnet has a structure unique to itself. These sonnets may draw from the previously established forms, perhaps with different rhyming schemes or none at all, or with different stanza lengths or line rhythms. The sonnet I would like to read for you today is by County Cullen, a prolific African-American poet and an important figure in the arts movement known as the Harlem Renaissance of the 1920s. This is the sonnet. There are no wind-blown rumors, soft say-sos, no garden-whispered hearsays lightly heard. I know that summer never spares the rose, that spring is faithless to the brightest bird. I know that nothing lovely shall prevail to win from time and death a moment's grace. At beauty's birth, the scythe was honed, the nail dipped for her hands, the cowl clipped for her face. And yet I cannot think that this, my faith, my winged joy, my pride, my utmost mirth, centered in you, shall ever taste of death, or perish from the false forgetting earth. You are with time, as wind and weather are, as is the sun and every male star. For me, this sonnet begins with Cullen's frustration at the inevitable passing of beauty. However, towards the latter part of the poem, he decides that beauty can never truly perish. It is with time, ethereal. With its concise use of imagery, compression of emotion, argument, and musicality, you can appreciate why the sonnet is the ultimate espresso shot of thought. Thank you.